Hi guys, I just wanted to give my review of The Flash, Season 2, Episode 21, The Runaway Dinosaur. So, everybody's still mourning the death of Barry, but then Cisco grabs the remains of his costume and vibes Barry in an energy storm and realizes he's still alive in a pocket dimension. Jesse, sorry, Jesse and Wally are still unconscious from the energy wave from the particle accelerator explosion. Joe, Iris, and Harry go to check on them, in which Wally wakes up, but she's breathing, but she's still not fully conscious, and Henry has to tend to her, and Henry sends Cisco and Iris down to the morgue to find notes about how Thawne treated Barry when he was in his coma. And that's when they realized that presumably the explosion reanimated Girder as a zombie because apparently Thawne had kept some of the corpses of the dead metahumans and had been experimenting on them. And so Girder goes out into the street on a rampage, going to places like the Big Belly Burger, back to Iris's house, and the team realizes that he's trying to retrace his steps and go to find Iris. So Iris goes. So the West family goes back to the house. Joe drops his coffee and asks Wally if he's okay, to see if he's developed powers from the explosion, and he doesn't seem to be developing powers yet, but. And meanwhile, Barry is in the Speed Force, where he wakes up in his childhood bedroom and goes to various locations around in the next. I guess it's called the comic books, the Nexus, the Speed Force, which is his house after Joe's examining the crime scene where his mom's murdered. And the Speed Force appears to Barry as various avatars. First as Joe at the crime scene where his mom was murdered. Then as Iris in the same park Barry kissed her in the alternate timeline during episode 15, season 1. And then as Henry Allen at Nora Allen's gravesite, and then as Nora Allen himself, each telling him that they taken forms he's recognized. He was given a great gift, and the Speed Force is something that would exist before and after the end of the universe, before and after the end of time. They asked why he would reject their gifts, and Barry was just trying to save. And Barry explains how he almost died trying to get them back, and he gave his powers up to save Wally, and how he hasn't fully come to terms with the decision to not save his mom when he went back in time and had a chance. And he's questioned as to whether the lives he saved before and since then have had any value, and when being confronted. And at one point, Cisco did try to use his vibe powers with the help of Harry, using nodes attached to his head to go into like an energy storm and try to get Barry back from the Speed Force, but he rejected it, and he was told by the Speed Force, while as Iris, that he can't get if he does go back at that point, he wouldn't get his powers back, and he had to chase after the shadowy figure in the Nexus. And while he's talking to the Speed Force's Nora, Barry confesses that he's never come to terms with his mother's death. And the Speed Force tells Barry that his mother's proud of the man he's become, and that even though he's been given a wonderful gift to save people's lives, he has to accept the fact that he's not going to be able to avoid tragedy, and that he can't save everyone. And so, and quote unquote Nora reads the Runaway Dinosaur, which is Barry's childhood book that his mom read to him before she was killed, and when Barry and then the shadowy figure enters the house, and Barry realizes it's him as the Flash, and they both become one. And when Team Flash is trapped in the place where like the speed cannon is and where they try to do the particle accelerator experiment by Girder, they try to reach out to Cisco tries to reach out to Barry again, but this time Iris decides to help as well. So they both hold hands. The real Iris calls out to Barry, and that's when. And this is what I liked about Kevin Smith. Like, he has a respect for the Flash mythology, about how exploring like the mythology of the Speed Force, and how every speedster needs to have a lightning rod or emotional, or like their rock, like they need like their rock, so to speak, to like kind of bring them back from the Speed Force, kind of like how the Justice League brought the Flash back in that episode of Justice League Unlimited, where like I can't remember the title of the episode, where like Brainiac and Lex Luthor like merged into one being. So it kind of reminded me of that, and it was nice how, and conveniently, he got his own suit. He came back with the new suit. So he was able to come back. He was basically able to come back, and was able to stop Girder by channeling some magnetic rods that Harry and Cisco were working on in order to shut him, quote unquote, shut him down, the zombie Girder. And Barry and Iris finally go to visit Nora Allen's graves and pay his respects. And he says that he doesn't know what the future holds. He said he doesn't know what the future holds for him and Iris, but it seems like they're definitely moving in the direction where they're definitely going to become a couple. It's very strongly hinted at. They're both like on the same page about it. It seems. And Barry was able to use like a spark or some kind of electricity to basically wake Jessie out of her coma. And the episode ends in which Zoom, Caitlin's still being held captive by Zoom, and he tells her if she stays with him, he knows that she's on his side. If not, then she's gonna be given as much mercy as her friends, everybody else in Central City. And Zoom has apparently brought over all of the Earth 2 metahumans and leading an army to basically take over Central City, lead a siege on Central City, not unlike Slade Wilson and his army on Arrow Season 2. Although I'm surprised that they didn't, he couldn't just, try to, galvanize all of the Earth 1 metahumans, considering that, Harry mentioned in the last episode that they were far more metahumans on Earth 1 than Earth 2, because that particle accelerator explosion wasn't contained, and most of them were in hiding, and he figured that Zoom was going to bring them out of hiding and force him to do his bidding, and he figured he had more followers, but maybe the army will be made up of both Earth 1 and Earth 2 metahumans. I'm not sure. And based on the previews for next week's episode, Barry was talking to somebody about how we have this Speed Force, that nobody can beat them. I don't know if it's Jesse or Wally. I don't know if it's either going to... If it's Jesse, then they're probably going to have to join forces, beat Zoom, and maybe Wally won't get his powers until one of those last shots of the season finale, where you see his hand vibrating or something, just like Barry's was in the pilot. So and it was kind of funny how since Kevin Smith was directing, he was able to get Jason Mewes, who plays Jay and Jay and Silent Bob, in a cameo of Big Belly Burger, and he was yelling when Girder trashed his Humvee, and he was like, "That's my mom's car!" And supposedly he had a cameo. He was one of the metahumans that Zoom was talking to, and last shot. I had to watch it again to see, but it's still pretty cool, and it definitely seems, and I'm glad that he's going to be directing another episode in season 3. So what do you guys think of the what do you guys think of the episode? Do you think Wally and Jesse will both get powers next week? Do you think only Jesse will get powers? Do you think only one of them will get powers and the other one will get Jesse will get powers and Wally will get them like at the end of the season? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. If you like this video, like, share, and subscribe, and I will talk to you guys soon. Take care.